Stranger Things, starting, of course, with Season 1, Episode 1, The Vanishing of Will Byers. So, settle in and enjoy. So, when we open the episode, it's a quiet night in Hawkins, Indiana, one of those sleepy small towns where everyone knows each other, where secrets don't last long, and nothing much ever happens. But tonight, something is very wrong. We start inside Hawkins National Laboratory, an ominous-looking government facility on the edge of town. Fluorescent lights are humming and echoing down the sterile hallways. A scientist in a white lab coat is sprinting for his life down the hall. His breath is ragged, his footsteps frantic. So behind him, there are strange growling noises echoing. There's something unnatural and creepy about them. When he reaches the elevator, he mashes the buttons desperately. The doors slide open in time, but before he can escape, something that we can't see snatches him up from above. The doors close, and it's just silent. Already we know something terrible is lurking in Hawkins. Cut to a much more familiar scene. A basement covered in mismatched rugs, cluttered with books and action figures, and a Dungeons and Dragons setup on the table. This is Mike Wheeler's house, and he and his three best friends, Will Byers, Lucas Sinclair, and Dustin Henderson, are deep into their latest campaign with Dungeons and Dragons. The room is dimly lit, casting dramatic shadows, and Mike is narrating. The Demogorgon is coming. The others freeze, and Dustin reaches for his snacks. Will is debating whether to attack or run, and whichever choice he makes will shape the rest of their game. He decides to take a risk. He rolls his dice, and it tumbles off the table. Everyone scrambles to find it, but before they can, Mike's mom calls it a night. She yells at them to pack it up and leave. The game is unfinished, and they aren't sure what was going to happen next. The boys grab their bikes and ride into the night. Their laughter is echoing in the cool autumn air. It's a very classic 80s scene filled with a carefree nostalgia, and then the feeling shifts to something darker. We see Will pedaling home, and the woods around him are getting quiet. A strange sound crackles through the trees, and a low, unnatural clicking. His smile fades away, and he keeps going, but then his bike light flickers. Something moves in the darkness, so he speeds just like his bike light was doing earlier. So we follow him as he backs away from the door, his panic rising. He rushes to the phone, but all he can hear is static. So he heads to the shed and grabs the shotgun that his dad left behind. And he's trembling, but he still figures out how to get it ready if he needs to use it. The light bulb above him starts buzzing, and then it goes out, and Will Byers is gone. So, the next morning, Joyce Byers realizes that something is wrong. Her house is too quiet, so she goes and knocks on Will's bedroom door and then pushes it open. His bed has not been slept in, and she can tell. So she calls his friend Mike, then Dustin, then Lucas, and no one has seen him since the night before. So, like a normal mom, she starts getting a little bit frantic. She's a single mom, and she already has too much on her plate, so she's rushing to the police station, and that's where we meet Police Chief Jim Hopper. He is disheveled and hungover and coming into work with a cigarette and a cup of coffee. When Joyce bursts in, frantic, he tries to reassure her and kind of dismiss her situation as kids go missing sometimes, but they usually turn up. I'm sure everything will be fine. But Joyce is a mom with mother's intuition. She knows her son, and she knows that something is wrong. Hopper sighs and seems annoyed, but he agrees to go check things out. So he heads to the Byers' house with his deputies and follows the clues. So Will's bike is found abandoned in the woods, and that's a red flag. Obviously, kids who are running away don't just dump their bikes in the woods. So they form a search party and get a little bit more serious. Meanwhile, Mike, Dustin, and Lucas are worried about their friend. They know the adults are handling things, but they also feel like they should be doing their own investigation at the same time. So that night, even though a storm is coming, they sneak out on their bikes with flashlights, which is, half brave, half irresponsible, and then there's crazy thrown in there too, so it's like a great representation of their loyalty to their friends, but also the recklessness of children when they don't really have to think about the consequences. They just jump up and they go, for better or for worse. So, as they're searching the woods, they hear something rustling nearby, and a shape comes out of the darkness, but it's not Will, it's a girl, and she's thin and pale and dressed in a hospital gown, and her head is shaved. She looks exhausted, terrified, and she's totally silent. So the boys are looking at each other like, who is she? What do we do? Is she running from something? Like, what is going on? snatches it up, and there's just static. But then she hears breathing. Then she hears the word mom. Mom. Her eyes get wide and she's like, Will, is that you? But before she can get more, there's a burst, like an electrical noise and a high-pitched screech from the bone, and it shorts out. And she's staring at it, freaking out. She knows that she heard her son, and she knows in her heart that he's not gone. So at the same time that all this is happening, between the boys in the woods and Joyce with the phone, there's scientists at Hawkins' lab on the move, led by Dr. Brenner. They get to a seemingly random location and they're all wearing hazmat suits. There's something spreading, like an organic, pulsating mass, like a wound in the fabric of reality. It's not just a missing persons case. Something much bigger is happening in Hawkins. That's what we get to realize as the viewer at this moment. It all started with the vanishing of Will Byers. So that is what we find out in the first episode. There's mystery after mystery after mystery, and all of it just draws us in more and more. We get that nostalgic feeling like we're watching E.T. or another 80s TV show or movie, the nostalgia and the good feeling. And then we also get this super unsettling feeling and the mystery of what the heck is going on, and are these people going to be safe, and what's going to happen next, and of course, where is Will Byers? So this first episode is just perfect for getting you to keep watching and introducing you to every character kind of in their element and how they react to crisis situations, which tells you a lot about their character right away. So next, we'll be starting a recap for episode 2, and hopefully you'll enjoy and you'll want to keep listening and watching, and we'll get through every episode and kind of get to go back and reminisce as we prepare for season 5, the final season. So I will see you guys next time. Thanks for listening.